Hey everybody, it's Dr. Brent. So it is Thanksgiving week. Happy holiday. I'm sorry I haven't been able to make videos for the last couple of weeks, but as you know, I had emergency oral surgery, and let me tell you, if you don't have your wisdom teeth out, get them out. Don't wait until you're my age to get them out, and all that kind of stuff. Boy, it was painful. Anyway, I'm just thankful that I was able to get services and help, but regardless, I could not speak, so I couldn't make videos. Even so, you all seem to have done a very good job in terms of, responding, doing your assignments without videos. So, regardless, I knew you'd want to see my shining face and the fact that my cheeks aren't swollen out to here. Boy, it wasn't fun. Anyway, I wanted to follow up with you just because this is going into we're going into week 6, and I wanted to briefly your discussions are pretty clear, as is the grid. But I also wanted to make sure I went over the final integrative paper for you. You got feedback from me recently. I appreciate your patience on the fact that some of your work was delayed simply because, frankly, I was recovering. But I did respond to most of your assignments, certainly from week 3 and 4 and 5. If you still owe me work, which some of you do, make sure that you get that in and/or contact me accordingly. All right, so just very briefly, the narrative family therapy video analysis is fairly straightforward. You are to watch the video with Steve Madigan, and in your learning resources around narrative work, and take a look at what were some of the reactions what are your reactions to the therapist method for helping out this particular client? Um, could you think of a current or our past client for the concept of reauthoring would be really helpful in terms of narrative work, and that the notion of externalization in narrative therapy is really the concept of being able to say, okay, I'm going to take the problem I'm having, I'm going to put it over here in this chair. It's a little bit gestalty that way. So a good example might be addiction or illness or depression or something along those lines, to be able to kind of remove some of those problems from the person, and it actually serves as an opportunity for that individual to really take a look at themselves without that particular experience. So in this context, how did externalization help Ollie? That's the identify client in this. And then what did the therapist do to help the mom feel safe to talk about some of her experiences with racism, in spite of some of the differences racially between the therapist and the family? And of course, there is a response prompt. Okay? All right, that's the first discussion, pretty straightforward. Second discussion is excuse me, um, uh, solution focused brief therapy video analysis. So, taking a look at the video by Inso Kimberg in Learning Resources. Look at the miracle question and what are some of the questions that the therapist might ask, and what were some of your reactions to those questions. 3 different follow-up questions that you might have if you were the therapist. And what did you see as 2 of the strengths and 2 of the potential limitations of this approach in light of this couple or a couple with similar issues? All right. And then a response prompt. Again, pretty straightforward. Your family grid. Is as usual. So we're taking a look at that. You're the in terms of looking at narrative therapy and/or solution focused. I can't remember which one. And then finally, your integrative case paper. This is the one I wanted to spend a few moments on. So the integrative case paper is kind of the piece de resistance of this particular course. And this is the good news with the grid. You can go back and use the grid here. This paper is really only designed to be about 5 to 7 pages, and it is described in your syllabus pretty extensively. You can click on that here if you'd like. But overall, you're going to be using a family that you have worked with, or a family, a fictitious family from literature, TV, films, what have you. I've had students use The Simpsons. I've had students use the Lannisters from Game of Thrones. I've had students use the Weasleys from Harry Potter. I've had students use Queen Elizabeth's family. I mean, from the family from August Osage County, Will Smith and his son from The Pursuit of Happiness. I mean, there's so many really great literature, TV, or film families that you can base this on, in which case you have to do a little bit of projection here. So you're going to use a problematic episode from that particular case and create a genogram based on your information that you have. If you don't have it, to the best of your ability, make that up and kind of lead that into it. And it should be, 3 generations. It should have a title. It should have a key. It should have relationships that are represented by symbols and lines, just et cetera, just like in your family of origin genogram. So the components for this, and please use headings for each section. A hypothesis, just like before. Write an assessment, causing of the problem, using a particular theory that you will then use to describe the interventions later. So if you decide that you want to use Bowenian theory to describe and hypothesize about what is it that's causing the problems in this family from a Bowenian perspective, things like triangles, differentiation, birth order, et cetera, then you should be able to use those concepts in your discussion of the hypothesis. In that way. Use at least 2 models that you have learned in this course. So Bowen, structural, contextual, narrative, EFT, it's communications, et cetera, et cetera. Sociocultural factors, talk about culture and the role that culture may have played in either the development of the problem or particularly coping skills that help provide support for the family in coping with that problem. Life cycle stages, use Carter and McGoldrick from the family life cycle. That reading is in module 1. So Carter and McGoldrick, that describes the various family life cycle stages: single adult, the new couple, a couple with young children, couple with adolescents, couple, launching adolescence, midlife, older adulthood, etc. All of those kinds of stages, and talk about some of the second order changes that is the subtle things that shift and change in relation to what happens developmentally over time. Family strengths, describe the strengths of the family as a whole and of the individual members. And again, you did actually a really great job in your family of origin papers with this. It wasn't just, well, we love each other. No, it's more than that. It's some of the innovative strengths that are perhaps unique to your family. The family interventions. This is like the meat and or tofu of your paper. What are some of the interventions that you can use from 2 or more of the practice theories we've covered in class? And of course, here they are. And this is when you go right to your grid. Pull out those interventions. Tell me how they might work. Describe those interventions to me, cut and paste from your grid, and then tell me how they might work with this particular family around this problem. So if you decide from a Bowenian point of view that you want to do as an intervention a genogram, tell me how you're going to do it. Describe some of the things you might say. Who's going to be present? Who's not going to be present? What do you think the outcome might be? How will you know? Et cetera, et cetera. Obviously, since this paper is only 5 to 7 pages, this is going to be the largest part of your paper, okay? Your value conflicts, do you have any differences of opinion, countertransference reactions with this particular family, things that might trigger you, how might you resolve them? So if you say go to supervision, how are you going to use supervision? What kind of questions are you going to ask your supervisor? And of course, draw the genogram as I'd mentioned. Please use at least 4 or more of the readings from the course and then submit it accordingly. And of course, here is the rubric so you can follow along with what is worth what. Okay, so again, I appreciate your patience in getting feedback to you. I also appreciate your patience in me not getting to send you the wonderful video with my visage, but you did not want to see me over the last 2 weeks. All right, folks. Listen, if I don't talk to you, you know how to reach me by email is great, right over here, of course. And have a wonderful and happy Thanksgiving as much as possible. Eat too much and enjoy yourselves. Be safe. I'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.